Hello, witches. I am High Priestess Ortophenus. Thank you for joining me here live, either on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, because I know this broadcast is going to help a lot of witches, especially witches that is new to the craft of the wise. How to not get confused with witchcraft books. There are a lot of books out here about witchcraft, and reading too much, diving into too many topics can be confusing. So this afternoon, I am going to squash the confusion so that you can have the books that you need that actually relates to your practice, because every practice of a witch is different. So first and foremost, be sure to share this broadcast with a witch or two or three, especially if that witch is new to the craft of the wise, so they too may not get confused about all the books about witchcraft. So, again, first and foremost, what is witchcraft? Witchcraft is working with the energy found in nature to bring about real, significant, and permanently positive change. No witch should be going through life the hard way. No witch should be struggling. I know some people who are not witches say, well, life is hard. No, life is what you make it. That's where witchcraft comes in. I've been a witch since I was 17 years old. I started out as a Christian, transitioned into a Satanist, and found my true calling as a witch. I have read thousands of books about witchcraft until I settled on a few books that definitely helped me today be the witch and the high priestess that I am. I love reading. That's one of my favorite hobbies to do, is to read. But a lot of confusion can come about with books about witchcraft. There are some great authors out here on the craft of the wise, but sometimes you can get confused, and then when it is time to do a spell, ritual, hex, or curse, you are just left confused. You don't know what to do. You don't know what candles, crystals, and scents you should be using, because your mind is just in a fog, just blurry with all the written words you have put into your brain in books that you may not even use. In books you may not even use. I love reading, but I personally only have a select few books that I use in my practice. I used to have 25 books about witchcraft, and I was confused. I didn't know what to do. I had no clue. I was confused until my own high priestess taught me how not to be confused about witchcraft. Now, if you are the type of witch who does not like to read, this broadcast is definitely not for you. Definitely not for you. You can learn a lot from high priests and high priestesses like myself, but at some point you have to pick up a book. At some point you have got to pick up a book. So that's what this broadcast is about this afternoon. How to not get confused with all the millions of books out here about witchcraft. All right, so number one, how to not get confused with all the books that are out here about witchcraft, is to commit to reading one book at a time and finishing that book before you move on to the next book. If you are reading about crystals, using crystals in witchcraft, stay focused on that topic. Finish reading that topic before moving on to the next subject. You don't want your mind to get blurry. You don't want to be confused. You don't want to be at your altar doing crystal magic and can't remember anything because you did not even finish the first book before moving on to the next book. Finish the book. Finish the book. Commit to reading one book. Like I just said, when I first started out as a witch, I had way too many books. I had way too many books. I had to actually donate some of my books because it was just taking up too much space. I did not have Kindle. I did not have an ebook. I had physical books that were confusing me. I had to commit to finishing the book, reading the book from beginning to end. I had to make that commitment. The books that I donated to went to libraries, and it went to other witches and to other covens. That's where my books that just were like, okay, I can't finish this, or okay, I'm not interested in this subject anymore. Please don't throw your books away. Please don't throw your books away. If you have books on witchcraft that you don't like, don't throw away the book. Give the book away to a witch or a coven or a library who will have good use for it. But don't throw it away. Please do not throw it away. That's the first thing. Commit to reading one book at a time and finishing that book before moving on to the next subject. The same thing, like for me, I love doing candle magic. So I would read one book about candle magic and continue to read about candle magic, finishing each book before moving on to the next subject. So for me personally, the type of witchcraft that I do is candle magic, working with herbs, and divination. That is 3 things that I know I'm an expert in. Candle magic, herbs, and divination. Those are 3 things I know I excel in. So those are the books that I have now in my possession that I use in my craft. Commit to reading one book. If you're not interested in the book, please don't throw it away. Please do not throw it away. Give it to a witch or a coven or a library that will make good use of it. Now, if you have that book on a Kindle or an ebook, you have no choice but to delete it from your library. If you have it on your Kindle or the ebook, you have no choice but to delete it. You won't get your money back. But I like physical books. Me personally, I like physical books. I love reading. So if I buy a book or borrow a book from the library that I don't like anymore, I just return it or give it to a witch or coven who I know will have better use of it. So that's number 1. Commit to reading one book from beginning to end. Stick to that subject. Now, number 2 is to use books as reference, not scripture. Use books as reference, not scripture. Every author that has written a book about witchcraft is writing from their own perspective. Witchcraft is different for every witch that practices it. So if a book tells you to do this or not do this, do not take it seriously. Do not take it seriously. Reference it. That means use that book as something that you can draw bits and pieces from. But don't take it as it's set in stone. That is something that you must or must not do. Use books as reference, not scripture. Take every book that you read about witchcraft with a grain of salt. Don't take it completely seriously. Remember, you are still the witch. As witches, we make the rules. As witches, we decide what we are going to do at the altar. The author that wrote that book is not going to be with you. You will be with yourself, with your chosen God or goddess or ancestor. Use books as reference, not scripture. Books are great to refer to when you don't understand something and you need clarity, but books can become bad when you rely on it for everything. That's bad. That's bad. A lot of witches use mostly their intuition to do witchcraft, which I strongly recommend. And some witches use books, which I also strongly recommend. But do not forget, you are still the witch. You still make the rules. You still decide what is right for you, because witchcraft is different for every witch. What I do may not work for you. What you do may not work for me. You are not a robot. You are not a machine. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You can always use books to refer back to if you don't understand something. Like I said, if you need clarity, if you want to understand something a little bit more. But the writings those authors have written are not set rules. You don't have to obey them. You are not going to be punished if you don't obey them. Use books as a reference, not scripture. The author is writing from his or her own perspective, his or her own beliefs about witchcraft. But do not neglect your own beliefs about witchcraft. Do not neglect what you know to be true about witchcraft. Don't say to yourself, maybe I'm wrong, maybe the author is right. The author does not know you. The author may never meet you in life. The only person that really knows you is your chosen god or goddess. The author is, quite frankly, really in it to make a buck, to make money. Use books as a reference, not scripture. You, as a witch, you make all of the rules. All of the rules. You can choose to follow what the author has said, or not follow it completely, or just not pick up the book at all and buy it. Use books as a reference, not scripture. What the author says may not be completely right for you. It may be completely wrong. Then you see your spells not working. You see your spells coming back to hurt you instead of your intended enemy. Use books as a reference, not scripture. You make the rules. That's why I tell people, when you become a witch, you are a powerhouse. When you become a witch, you are a powerhouse. Books are great. I love books. I just love books. But I take it with a grain of salt. I don't take it seriously. I still have my own brain functions. I still know what works for me. If the author says something that doesn't work for me, I just ignore it. I just ignore it. I don't give it any attention. I take books as references, not scripture. Because as a witch, I make all of the rules. Use books as references, not scripture. Now, the final one is to get rid of books that is poorly written or does not relate to your practice. Remove books that are poorly written or does not relate to your practice. Listen, I have read some books about witchcraft that is terrible. Words are misspelled, sentences run on, sentences that don't make sense, paragraphs not right. It does not relate to my practice, or they go back and forth between topics. I hate that. I have read books like that are just bad, that is poorly written, that do not relate to my practice. Remove those books. Hell, if you ordered it online, try your best to return those books. Yes, I have returned books about witchcraft that was badly written or had nothing to do with my practice as the author claimed. I have returned, and yes, I have gotten my money back too. I don't like books that are badly written, poorly written, a lot of misspelled words. I understand that people are not perfect, but come on. You just put out a book that is badly written, or a book that claims to talk about just one topic that you are interested in, and yet you're talking about something else. So I buy a book about candle magic, and you constantly go back and forth between candle magic and working with crystals. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that shit. If I buy a book about candle magic, stay on topic. Don't change the subject. Don't ping pong between subjects. Stay on candle magic. I don't want to hear about anything else. Because you claim as the author to stay on the topic of candle magic, and yet you're talking about how to work with crystals too. Shut the fuck up. I am returning the book and getting my money back, because this is false advertisement. The book did not deliver what it promised. And I will definitely return a book if it has bad writing, poorly written. I'm talking about words, small words, easy words that a first grader can figure out. It's misspelled. I hate that. Those books can't help you. Those books can never help you. If you have a book right now in your possession that does not relate to your practice at all, or poorly written, get rid of it. Trust me, you are not hurting the author's feelings. Because if the author actually cared, they would have sold a book that was worth reading, that was worth not returning. A lot of people who write books about witches, crystals, candle magic, divination, high priests, and talk about high priestesses are just regular people. They are not part of our community. I have always said that if you are not a witch, you can't talk about witchcraft, because you can't talk about what you are not. Those people, those so-called experts about witches and witchcraft, are not witches. They are just writing a book to make money. But yet when you read their book, it's clear they are not witches. It's clear they don't know how to spell. It's clear that they have some type of mental illness in which they cannot even stay on topic. Return the book. Fight to get your money back. Write a bad review. Get rid of the books that are poorly written, books that make zero sense, books that don't stay on subjects, or books that do not relate to your practice. If you practice divination, why are you reading a book about car mechanics? What does working on a car machinery, has to do with working with crystals? It has nothing to do with it. Nothing. Get rid of these books, because I know you have them. I know you might be saying, well, I don't want to hurt the author's feelings. I'll just let it go. No. 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 Get rid of books that are badly written, does not stay on subject, or has absolutely nothing to do with your practice. And get your money back too. Get your money back too. Because that's false advertisement. You sold me a book that has nothing to do with candle magic. So why should you keep my money? You're not keeping my money. You're not. You're not. I'm going to get it back from you. I am going to get my money back from you. I am. So that's it for me this afternoon. I wanted to really come on here and help some witches, especially witches who are new, and how to navigate books about witchcraft. Because there are millions of books out here about the craft of the wise that can be confusing for a witch, especially a brand new witch. And I don't want that. I don't want that. So like I said earlier, be sure to share this broadcast with a witch, sorry, or two or three, that needs this message. Once again, my name is High Priestess Austin Phoenix, who is anointed and appointed by the Queen of Witches Hecate to be a voice for witches who have ears to hear and hands to receive Hecate's best. Thank you, witches, and I'll speak to you witches next time. Bye, everyone.